This is one of those good news, bad news scenario things. What do you want first?
Bad news.
The wine that Shane gave you the other night wasn't wine. It was blood.
Your sister's a suck monkey.
What he's trying to say is, we're vampires.
Ooh, scary.
No, but seriously.
We're vampires.
You have to see the world the way we do. Never grow old. You'll never die. And you'll never know fear again.
I'm Edgar Frog, surfboard shaper and vampire hunter. Let's go kill some vampires.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Pod and the Pendulum, your horror movie podcast covering every horror movie franchise, one movie and one episode at a time. I'm your host, Mike Snoonian, joined once again by a round table of folks. Up first, we have our regular co-host, Jerry Smith. Jerry, how are we doing?
What is up? Lost Boys, the tribe.
Getting up for it.
I'm excited.
Can't even say it with a straight face. Can't do that.
And like a movie that couldn't even get Kiefer Sutherland, so they got not his brother, but his half a brother, Angus Sutherland.
Not even half the talent, half the brother. Not half the talent. Spoiler alert. We also have with us on hand from Ghastly Grinning and now Dread Central, Brian Kuiper. Brian, how are we doing?
I'm doing great.
That's great.
Even if we are talking about the tribe.
Right. Brian, you can raise your levels up just a little bit if you'd like.
I will.
All right. Also on hand, we have Miss Veronica Maitland.
Yeah,
Veronica,
we do. Hello.
How are you doing?
Oh, you know what? I'm really excited to talk about surfing, vampires. I think that's about it, but no, we're good. I'm excited.
So, yeah, it's interesting because I think to date, this is the 41st or 42nd movie that we've covered here, and it's the first direct-to-video movie that we've covered.
Rightfully so.
Right. So, we've covered some stinkers. We've covered, Halloween Resurrection and Jason Goes to Manhattan, Book of Shadows, not movies I would call good or watchable, or, movies I think this is one where if you were to show this to somebody under duress, you could be arrested for a war crime.
And it's also a movie that if you showed someone who hadn't seen the first movie, like if you showed them Lost Boys the Tribe first, I can guarantee you they would never go back and watch the first movie.
Oh, absolutely. They would not do that. So, but before we get to what's really sucks is right now someone out there is like, you know what, man, The Tribe is the first horror movie I ever watched. And it was the
They went down a wrong road.
And someone's got probably a Lost Boys Tribe tattoo or something. They love this movie.
A lot of bros with Lost Boys Tribe tattoos.
But somebody, you know what I mean?
Their senior yearbook quote was, "Let's get one thing straight. I fucking hate vampires."
Right.
No, what's funny is someone is going to come across this episode and be like, finally, my favorite movie is talked about. And 5 minutes into it, they're going to there's that.
I have to rethink everything, reassess my life.
This is the episode that Corey Feldman's going to stumble upon. Not when we shower him with praise for his performance as Tommy Jarvis in the final chapter or for his performance in the first Lost Boys. This is the one where the Feld is going to find our show and be like, fuck you guys. And then I'm going to piss somebody else off. That's going to send.
We're totally going to get another think piece about how much our show sucks off of this.
before we dive into this movie, I think there have been like a number of decent things to watch recently, and I kind of wonder what everyone has been up to, like what's been catching your eyeballs.
I'll let you guys go first because what I've been watching will probably go the opposite direction of something you should watch. So go for it.
I just saw Uncut Gems finally. It took a while, but that movie was intense. That was a full-blown anxiety attack, and I loved that ride. It was a great ride.
I think we went to see it like 2 times opening week. Like I love that movie. I can't see that one again. Adam Sandler's so great, which is something I never thought I'd say.
And I read that the directors, they recorded like 700 hours of just people talking so they could have appropriate background noise. And it's just unreal how, like, I haven't felt that tense during a movie, like a full-blown panic attack for 2 hours since Whiplash, I think. And so Uncut Gems brought that like full circle. It was so good.
I still need to see it, and I've seen the new Grudge movie, and I willingly chose that movie over Uncut Gems, despite really wanting to see Uncut Gems. Like, you know, I've made some terrible choices in life, and I'm feeling like that was definitely that's up there. That's up there with like dropping out of college at age 20 and then taking 20 years to get my bachelor's. Like seeing the new Grudge is up there in terms of like poor life decisions I've made.
No, but when it comes to Uncut Gems, I mean, goddamn, like, you know, I'm not going to give any spoilers whatsoever because it's a movie you should definitely go into as blind as possible. But there are so many times in this goddamn movie where you're almost wanting to yell at the screen, dude, you have every opportunity to turn your shit around.
It's like, did you guys watch Silicon Valley, that show where it's just, right? So it's just like you're just screaming like you're making the wrong choice over and over again, and you just watch them fail. It's so fun. It's so fun because it's not me. If it were me, that would be a terrible story. But like watching someone else go through it is a lot of fun.
And like anyone that punches The Weeknd, like, dude, I am there.
I haven't seen it yet. I'm the only one who hasn't seen it yet. But my wife got me Regal Unlimited, so I will be there soon.
Greatest.
And so I've seen a lot of movies because of that. I saw Knives Out finally. Which was fantastic. If you haven't seen it, unfortunately, the first movie I saw with my pass was The Grudge, which wasn't so great.
Right.
But I think, hey, I didn't hate it as much as Jerry did, but I just it just didn't do anything for me. It's not very interesting.
Yeah, I'd say it's a C-. Like I don't give it the F that everyone's giving it. I think I'm more disappointed. You ever like do something really stupid as a kid and your parents are like, "I'm not angry, I'm disappointed." Yeah. It's pretty much how I feel about the new Grudge because Eyes of Our Mother is one of the most incredible debuts of a filmmaker with Nicholas. Am I saying his name correct if I say Pesci or Pesci? I can't pronounce it.
I just call him Nicholas P.
I'm going to call him NP. So, NP's debut, it really should be discussed up there with like Jordan Peele's debut and Ari Aster's debut and Robert Eggers' debut. You have this real like visionary voice and he was able to create these moments of violence that absolutely like took your breath away and just stayed with you way after walking out of the theater and watching the movie. And then you have like The Grudge, which is an R-rated movie, and it's so pedestrian and just so like, it's, fine. It's there. It's like it's like the Wendy's single cheeseburger, like on the value menu of like movies. Like it'll get the job done, I guess, in a pinch, but there's no need to really seek it out.
Well, the thing is, like, I've heard people call him a one-trick pony, but that's not true because his second film, Piercing, is just as good. Like, he had a 1-2 punch right from the beginning. And to be honest, I hated The Grudge. Like, it was probably, and I don't use this term like all the time, but it's probably the worst movie I've seen in 5 years. I hated it with a passion, and I have no idea why.
Now, did you watch The Lost Boys: The Tribe before the show? Like, is it within that 5-year window?
Right? No, but like, I don't think it's his fault though. I don't. I see like those 1,000,005 jump scares as being something that was kind of like the mandate. I think that's what irritated me so much, because right from the gate, I mean, Eyes on My Mother, I think that is a movie that just fucks me up in the greatest of ways. Like it felt like David Lynch does Texas Chainsaw to me. And I remember when that movie first came out, the PR company sent to, I don't know if they wanted, every once in a while PR companies will send writers random things. This is the most random thing I've ever got. Eyes on My Mother, the PR company sent me a real cow's eyeball.
Wow.
And it was in this bag of fluid, and I forgot about it. I put it on my
bag of fluid. Okay. Wow.
And I put it on my fridge, and I forgot about it. And about a week later, it started smelling, and there was like 100 ants on my fridge. So I'll always remember that movie for that. But like, such a talented director. I walked in The Grudge, just wanting to watch it. Halfway through it, I was just like, oh my God. And I kept looking at my wife saying, well, I guess at least I'm getting paid for watching this. I mean, like, I couldn't think of any way around it other than that. And I even took my kids to see it, which is kind of a dumb thing to do.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to watch it. And my daughter loved it with a passion. And I was just like, Dahlia, why? And she was just like, yeah, Dad, I know. I had so many jump scares for no reason whatsoever. But, it was fun. It's like, and I sold her right away. But yeah, other than that, I saw Little Women recently, which is definitely not horror, but it's fucking amazing.
Yeah,
it was so good. So good. And it's crazy. Florence, I can't pronounce her last name right.
Florence.
Yeah. She went right from Midsummer to, I think, the very next day or the next 2 days later into right away filming Little Women. And that's so great because those two performances are so different.
Well, and earlier this year, she was in Fighting with My Family.
Which I just was going to say that I just watched that this last weekend. Her speech at the end made me cry, and I don't know why, but at that moment it was just like, oh my gosh, this fucking movie's making me cry. I don't, and it was so she's so good. She's amazing.
She is.
She's great. Queen and Slim's pretty amazing too. I know everything I'm saying other than The Grudge isn't really horror based, but I like Brian. I got the Regal Rewards a while back, so I've been watching 15, 16 movies in the last couple months.
Yeah, I just got out of. I do the AMC one because there's just more of them around us, and I came out of Underwater last night. I caught a late screening of it, and that's super fun. Underwater disaster / monster movie. There's no first act. I mean, basically,
no, there's not.
The movie just like, all right, we're in this giant drill underwater and things go wrong right from the get-go. Like, there's no real first act, and it's just 90 minutes of trying to get the hell out, and then underwater sea monsters attack, and it's so much fun. It is absolutely seems like it was edited by someone who snorted all the Adderall, and I still don't quite understand how some of the characters their histories with one another. Like, I think you're supposed to assume that Kristen Stewart's husband dies at one point, but I'm not 100% sure because it's not a movie where there's like dialogue is that important. But it's like even like the characters are all pretty well drawn. I think what I liked about it a lot is like there are no dicks. Basically, no one is like everyone is basically we have a really insurmountable situation ahead of us. Let's not make it worse by infighting. Let's all do our jobs as competently as we can do them. And it's still going to be almost impossible to pull this off. So even the character that they set up to be, you think he's going to be the asshole, and he's actually one of the better characters in it. So I really enjoyed. And Kristen Stewart's she's fantastic in it. She was
great.
Yeah.
I saw it right after school yesterday, and as soon as I got out, I I wrote my review for Ghastly Grinning in less than an hour and sent it off. And I had commented on Twitter last night, and Ryan wrote me and said, "Dude, are you still writing a review for it?" And it's like, "It's already in your inbox, man." Mm-hmm. It was just so exciting and so much fun, and I really had a blast with it. Yeah. It was the kind of movie that I've been wanting to be able to see in the theater. Just a straightforward, fun, pretty scary movie. Yeah.
And without spoiling anything, the final monster reveal is so cool.
Oh, it's great.
So, I mean, you're like, it's, you think, oh, this is the end monster. And then you're like, nope, that's not it. Like, that is not it at all. Then when you see the final monster, it's such an awesome reveal. I really loved it. Little Women, fantastic. We caught that as a family over the Christmas break. But
have you guys from streaming? Have you guys seen the new on Shudder, the new Tom Savini documentary?
I have not.
No.
Yes, I have.
Really good. I loved it. I watched it, and then my son's really obsessed with special effects. My son Dexter, so I brought him in and showed it to him. It's really good. Really great, but like some of the editing just really throws me off every once in a while. Like there's some long kind of awkward pauses and that kind of stuff. But I mean, aside from that, it's really good. And it's not just a highlight reel of his stuff. It's like about his whole life, and it's really, really heartfelt and good.
So does it dive into like his history as like a war photographer at all? Does it go into that kind of background?
Mike,
what's that?
Shows photos.
Okay.
Straight from like birth up until right now, like even getting custody of his daughter when like his ex-wife went through some problems, it goes through that kind of stuff.
Oh, wow.
It speaks to his kids, a couple of his estranged children. It speaks to like his collaborators. Like it is such a great documentary. Like if you could kind of bypass some of the weird editing here and there, like it's really good. It's hosted by Doug Bradley at the beginning.
Oh, very cool. Do they ever like address like the stuff, because I know he has the reputation of not being the most pleasant guy at conventions.
Yeah.
And I wonder if they dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, very briefly, but yeah, they definitely dive into that.
I hope it's just like 90 seconds of him like high-fiving and shaking hands with everybody and be like, see, I'm all right.
He talks about for a while, like in between like movie gigs, he was doing conventions basically just to keep pay rent and stuff. And he wasn't really feeling it. And then after a while, after he started doing a lot better again, he started doing conventions and actually doing them for the right reasons. He said, enjoying talking to people. And it kind of shows this kind of shift.
Yeah.
And then, I would definitely.
I can totally understand that.
There's also a reveal that I found really surprising about, and I won't spoil it, but why he's not doing special effects stuff anymore. And it's something he revealed for the first time in that interview, he said, anyway.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, we'll definitely check that out. I mean, everybody should have Shudder anyway, so we'll definitely check that out. So, Veronica, what have you caught besides Uncut Gems? Anything good?
Besides Uncut Gems, let's see. I mean, I guess I could check my Regal and see what I've seen lately, but it's, I saw, with the holidays, I didn't really see a whole lot. I've seen Knives Out, which of course was fun. I'm really excited to see Benoit Blanc. I heard they're going to make a second movie with his character, so that's going to be a lot of fun. I saw, this is back, but I saw Dr. Sleep. I'm watching a lot of things. I didn't hate Dr. Sleep as much as people hated Dr. Sleep.
I love Dr. Sleep. It was honestly, it was my favorite movie of the year, along with Marriage Story. Marriage Story and Dr. Sleep are my two favorite movies of the year.
So Marriage Story was a rough one to watch, but Dr. Sleep, I loved Marriage Story too. But Dr. Sleep, I had a lot of fun with it. I had fun with Ewan. Every time he does an American accent, I just have a great time with that. Mike Flanagan's great at what he does.
He really is.
He's a great storyteller, and he pulled everything together in a cohesive way, even though Stephen King was never a fan of the original Shining, of Kubrick's Shining. It was pulled together really nicely, and I enjoyed the movie.
I was under the impression, that people enjoyed Dr. Sleep, but not enough people saw it overall. So they just did a weird thing, like, hey, we have a new horror movie coming out. Let's do it in November, which, they kind of missed the boat, man. I think people got burned out a little bit post-Halloween.
Yeah.
I went to the theater to watch it, and it was out of the theater by then. Yeah. So I still haven't seen Dr. Sleep. Marriage Story, I liked it, but at the same time, I feel like I kind of lived that movie twice already. So.
Yeah, I didn't. I've married to the same person I have been married to since for 18 years almost now. But it was interesting experience watching that movie because we started it. It's like, hey, we finally have a chance to watch a movie together, which we rarely do, and we were kind of sitting on opposite sides of the couch, just sort of doing it, or just watching casually. Then as this movie got going, it was just like, my wife says, "Can I come sit next to you?" And I was like, "Yes, please. Yes, please come sit next to me."
My husband and I were watching it, and I paused it, and I said, "Let's never get divorced," because it's horrifying. And I mean, even not going through that, you still, being with the same person, you have big fights. It was like, talk about a movie that's not a horror movie that is a horror movie. Marriage Story is a horror movie.
Right.
There's a scene in that, and I know our listeners are gonna be like, "What the fuck? This is horror." But there's a scene in that movie that
we're doing trust our listeners. We're doing you a service right now by avoiding.
Scene in Marriage Story that just hit me hard because I had been at that exact place before, and it's where I forgot what the title is, but the woman came over to assess whether Adam Driver was, that whole thing with the son. Yeah. And in 2007, I kind of went through that whole thing, and seeing Adam Driver's character, I think maybe some people get the wrong impression about that, but he's awful. I don't mean awful as a character, but at that point, he's in such a bad place that that kid should not be there with him, And he's harming himself and acting like it was an accident. It's like a call for help. And that movie just screwed me up because I had been there. When I got divorced for the first time, I was in a really bad shape. I reacted to it very badly, started drinking a lot. And there came a time where my oldest kind of had to go stay with her mom for a while because that stuff happens. That stuff affects people. Divorce is never easy. And I think that movie captured it so perfectly. And I know a lot of it was autobiographical, Noah Baumbach and Jennifer Jason Leigh went through basically that divorce, and I think those films, to be honest, and I know that there's always gatekeepers saying this is or this isn't a horror film, but I think emotional horror is just as important as slasher films. I've always felt that, especially in anything that I've made, I did a short film called Love is Dead a few years ago with Joanna Angel and Ruben Plough from Insidious. My whole mentality with that is let's make a horror film where your words are the weapons instead of actual weapons. Ooh. And I think that stuff is so emotionally not just draining, but it forces the viewer, and Marriage Story does this really well, it forces the viewer to go through these wide range of emotions, and there isn't a set villain. Both of them are fucked up. Both of them are right. Both of them are wrong. It's just kind of like the crossfire of what people go through in that situation.
Yeah.
So The Tribe. No.
So I was going to say on a, in terms of in terms of heavy duty, deep movies, I just rewatched The Phantom Menace with my daughter.
That must have been hard for you.
It wasn't actually. It was actually pretty joyful.
What?
My daughter loves the original trilogy, and she loves the new trilogy. We were able to go see, and it was kind of awesome being able to take my daughter to 3 new Star Wars movies, and she has her own trilogy with her own characters that she's gonna grow up and love and remember. But watching The Phantom Menace with her was kind of there's obviously I think I've come to peace with what Lucas is doing with the prequel trilogy. It's less about what new stories can I tell, and for Lucas it's more about how can I innovate with this new digital cinema? What are some new things I can try to do, rightly or wrongly? What can I do? And he's like, if I'm going to be able to do that, and if I'm going to get the funds to do that, the vehicle for me is going to be, obviously the Star Wars franchise. So it was in whether or not you kind of love what he was doing in those movies visually, at least he was trying to kind of push things forward so other people could innovate and kind of take advantage of what had come before it.
I mean, I think that.
Oh, good.
Oh no, I was just going to say, I think that the story in the trilogy is really well put together and really well told, and I think it's more cohesive than the story in the current trilogy. I think that the prequels were. I mean, controversially, I think that the story in the prequels was much better than the story in this current sequel trilogy.
Yeah, and
actually had it planned out in that.
Yeah.
Whereas it feels the new trilogy feels much more haphazard. It's like, well, Rian Johnson really did. I think Last Jedi is the best of the three.
Sure,
in my opinion.
It is
because it really does something different, and it takes.
Does it though?
Well, for me it did.
I mean,
for me it did. It surprised me. It did things that surprised me, whereas neither Force Awakens nor Rise of Skywalker did.
Sure. No.
I mean, thematically, The Last Jedi is very similar to Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, oh yeah, of course.
It's very similar overall in terms of like the overall thematics. I think it's the best of the new trilogy. I like some of the direction that Johnson put it in, and like it's a brilliant movie, and probably the second or third strongest entry of all 9 movies. It's probably the one I'll go back and watch the least often.
Okay.
Except for maybe like part 2 and part 3. So it's not one where I would just like pull it off a shelf and say like, I'm going to watch this on its own. Like I would like A New Hope or Empire or even Force Awakens, just because it's not what I'm looking for. But what I found watching The Phantom Menace with my daughter is like within 3 minutes of Jar Jar Binks being on screen, she's like, I love him. She thought he was incredible. All the little things that like 25-year-old me found like really groan-inducing, like, oh, of course Anakin built C-3PO. Oh, look, there's R2. Like all the little nods that definitely were wedged in there. Like she was gasping at them, and like she had a full-blown meltdown when Qui-Gon was killed by Darth Maul. And I found myself like that scene, that moment where like Maul is revealed at the end and you have like the Duel of the Fates go up. I'm like, I still got goosebumps. So I found like watching this movie with someone who the movie is meant for, as opposed to watching the movie and then having film Twitter react to it in just the most negative ways possible, like really made me appreciate.
Well, for me, I mean, those prequels have been about kind of letting go for me. I mean, growing up, aside from horror, Star Wars was always like the biggest love of my life. I mean, like massive like fandom coming from me, and I hated those movies when they came out, and I still kind of despise the prequels. But with that being said, like kind of like what you're saying with your daughter, anytime my son watches one of those, like his eyes light up like a Christmas tree. He loves them with a passion, and it's allowed me to kind of just let go of that shit. It's like I have my Star Wars, you know what I mean? Like I have the movies that I love, like let him have his. And it also gave me kind of a new appreciation for what they were trying to go with it.
Exactly.
And that happens with me too. It's funny because, me, I grew up with the original trilogy. The prequels, I defended them when they came out, but I grew a little colder with them. My son, however, adores them. They're his favorite trilogy.
Huh.
Then my daughter has hated. She never liked Star Wars, and she's just a couple years younger than my oldest son, and but she loves the new trilogy because she has a hero to look up to. She has Rey in those movies, and to have, it's. I think that's such a cool thing that we kind of each have our story that we really latch on to in this one universe that's been created. and it's a kind of a beautiful thing.
Agree. And I adore each of the new movies in the new trilogy, all for different reasons. I think, and I think that's agree. All right. I don't think you have to be a Last Jedi or Rise of Skywalker person. Not everything has to divide into some camp that you have to go to.
Yeah,
I agree. So, I liked all three of them.
Speaking of trilogies, speaking of excellent trilogies, there's one trilogy called Lost Boys.
Let's bring it in.
All right.
So this has been my long-winded way of really trying to avoid. All right. Who wants to? Because I think this is going to be a movie a lot of people have not seen. So who would like to take a stab at recapping this movie?
Dude, I'm down. If you guys, if no one else wants to,
please,
you may
Jerry.
well be the only one who paid enough attention to get it.
A little bit of history before the plot. Right. After The Lost Boys was a massive hit on video, like it did okay at theaters, but it was so huge in video, and The Tribe was too, which is fucking weird. But after that, Schumacher wanted to do The Lost Girls, which is kind of like, let's give female viewers their story. Let's do that. And he tried to do it for so long, and it just wasn't happening for one reason or another. So Warner Brothers was basically like, you know what, fuck this dude. He's not making it happen. Let's rejuvenate the series. And basically, they bought someone else's script about surfing werewolves that was called The Tribe and rewrote it, had the person rewrite it, and did their own rewrites into making it The Lost Boys, which is weird because this movie, in a lot of ways, is it's less of a sequel and more of a really bad remake of The Lost Boys. There's specific beats, instead of two brothers now, it's a former surfer and his younger sister. They move in with their aunt. He tries to look for jobs. They run into like another former pro surfer. This movie's all about surfing. Who invites them to a party. The sister gets turned into a half vampire this time, and basically Corey Feldman comes in and tries to save the day. And instead of Kiefer Sutherland, like we said at the beginning, we get his half brother, Angus Sutherland, to be the main bad guy, Shane. I'm sorry, no offense to any of our listeners named Shane, but you can't go from Kiefer Sutherland's David to Angus Sutherland's Shane. That speaks so much on this movie, The Tribe. This movie, everything that The Lost Boys gets unfairly labeled, as far as boys' night out kind of movie, which I still don't think it is. The Tribe is most definitely that shit. This is the equivalent of vape bars, tribal tattoos, puka shell necklaces, and Monster Energy drinks. This is Four Loko and a line of Coke at once. That is what The Tribe is.
Yeah.
Good summary.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Schumacher pitched The Lost Girls hard and he was going to bring David back. I think, made a point of saying the reason why David doesn't disintegrate in the end of The Lost Boys is I always wanted to bring him back for something else. And he was going to be, and then it would be a whole new group of young women vampires. And that, I want to see that movie so bad. Or I want to see it as a Netflix series, anything, give me that and just maybe update it for the early 90s or something. That would be a hell of a lot of fun to watch. Way more fun than this movie.
It's just rough. And you could tell that, Feldman did that Rambo impression in the first film, and it was kind of funny. It was silly, but it was funny. This one, it is so forced, and his hair is so bad.
And the voice that he does, it's so painful to sit there and listen to. I mean, all the one-liners are just not good in this.
She's a half vampire.
And just the frog juice and who ordered the steak, Feldman.
Oh my God. It's just bad. It is this movie too. We spent a long time I last week talking about queer themes in The Lost Boys, and then we watched this, and this is the most aggressively heterosexual movie I have ever watched.
It's like as soon as you think there may be hope, there's just boobs. Like, guys, did you forget there's boobs again? Yeah. And it's
like there was this could, instead of being Lost Boys the Tribe, this could be like Lost Boys No Homo the movie. Like, it's so like every it was like, hey guys, we're going to get all that queer stuff out of here. We're best, we're all about balling babes and just like whipping out titties.
I feel like this is the movie that is, and I'm not trying to be insensitive, but I feel like this is the movie that's played during like date rapes while Chevelle is playing on the stereo.
Gosh.
Like Head PE probably sponsored this goddamn movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not good. It's just not good.
I was very uncomfortable watching this movie. And I mean, I've seen, I don't know. I've seen Irreversible 65 times, but this movie in particular was it was a hard watch. Right. And I don't know what it was about this movie. I guess I'm not schooled enough to dive into why this movie is bad, other than the fact that dialogue is bad, the storyline is bad, and the acting is bad. Mm-hmm. It's just a really painful watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It is, I mean, like you had said how it's like Four Loko in a line. Like you have this for a movie about surfing vampires. You know what this movie doesn't have?
Surf.
Any surfing scenes whatsoever.
Well, you know what it reminds me of?
There is no surfing in this movie.
No. In 2008, in the city that I grew up in, Visalia, California, where Jack Burton is from, Big Trouble in Little China, but there in 2008 there was this big boom of like MMA shit around here, which is something I've never been into, but like, I get it. People like seeing people punch each other, but around here it seems like everybody trained, in quotes. Everybody did that, and everyone was just like, oh yeah, where do you train? Oh, at home. Like it was basically that kind of shit. Like this movie wants to be Point Break, but nobody surfs. It's always it's the poser. It's the poser who brings a skateboard to school but walks home.
I mean, they couldn't even attempt like Brady Bunch level scenes with like the dude posing on it and you superimpose like a blue screen wave in the background and he's kind of like trying to keep his balance. Like you couldn't even do anything like that. You just have like, even the initiation's like, oh, maybe the initiation is going to be he has to like surf some crazy wave, but it's like, nope, like he has to ride in a little sidecar and just like it doesn't make it's
also like everybody knows surfing as well. So this brother who was an ex-surfer, I don't recall why he's no longer a surfer.
Surfer in this movie.
Everybody knew who he was. Everyone talked about surfboard shaping, which, I mean, it's a board. I don't know how much shaping you need to do, but I'm sure that's a hobby or a job. I'm not here to shit on surfing. Good for people who shape those boards for other people. But I think that I'm flabbergasted at the mishmash of this movie, the surfing vampires. Honestly, if you sold me a movie that was like, listen, I got something for you. We're going to have vampires. Hold up. They're also going to surf. I'm going to be like, oh, fuck, yes. Tell me this movie. Show me this movie. Put it in my eyeballs. And then you get this movie and you're like, you know what? I'm good. Can you just like erase this from my eyeballs? Right.
Well, what's funny is my experience with this. I know I had seen this movie before. Watching it this time, I kept asking myself, have I seen this movie before? Because I could not remember a single moment. I was like, did I watch The Thirst instead? I just did not remember a thing. But then I went to the deleted scenes and I went, oh, I remember that. I remember the alternate ending that is on special feature that is on the disc. That's all I remember from this movie.
You have the mid-credit scene where Corey Haim comes back as a vampire.
Yes.
Right.
And then deleted scene is where the other frog brother is a vampire, which is one of the main plots in the Thirst. The third one, Alan comes back and he's actually a major character as a vampire.
Okay.
But it seems like the tribe just didn't give a shit about any of the fans of the first film, anything other than the name. I remember when this movie was in production, Tom Savini did an interview, and he was just like, "Yeah, my scene, it's kind of like a Sergio Leone scene." And it's like watching the movie, you're like, "What the fuck?" Oh, it's not. It's more like Sergio joint down this block scene. Like there's no.
Tom Savini's scene is, I'm the get off my lawn guy.
Yes. Yes.
So he's basically Jason in part 4.
Right.
It's oh god, I'm rarely at a loss for words, but this movie just does that to me.
Jerry and Mike, like coming at this from people who were, grew up on The Lost Boys. When this was announced, do you even remember how you felt about it?
Yep.
No.
I remember how I felt, and it was pretty ecstatic. And I was really pissed that it was going to go straight to video. And then I watched it, and I realized why it went straight to video. Like, if there's ever a movie, and I hate the term, destroyed my childhood, because that's fucking bullshit. Nothing destroys any childhoods other than obviously real shit. Right. But watching this movie, I didn't watch the original for at least, I think, maybe 2 years after that. Mm-hmm. It didn't ruin it for me. Just like, oh man, like I don't want to see Corey Feldman again.
Yeah.
I don't want to see it again. And now, all these years removed, I don't mind seeing him in interviews, with his like affliction clothes and his studded hats and his studded shirts and studded sweaters all at once. You'll see that in the Tom Savini documentary, or his excessive makeup. I never thought that would be better than seeing him as one of the Frog Brothers. And after The Tribe, it most definitely fucking is.
When they announced this movie and it was like, hey, it's going direct to video, and the only member, only person involved with it from the first movie is Corey Feldman, and we have Kiefer Sutherland's like half brother. After that, I'm just like, I don't need to, like, there's only so many minutes and so many days you get on this spinning orifice that we live on. And I'm like, I just can't foresee any situation in my life where I would willingly sit down and watch this movie.
Do you remember the episode of that awful reality show that the two Coreys had?
The two Coreys.
Mm-hmm. There was an episode where Feldman is actually contacted to be in The Tribe.
There's something I need to talk to you about, dude. Sit down for a minute. What's up, kiddo? It's something I've been wanting to talk to you about, dude. Something I did now again? No, dude. It's just the whole Lost Boys thing. Yeah, you don't want to do it. It's not that. Spit it out, man. It can't be all that bad, right? What's up? They're making a sequel to Lost Boys. They're making this. Who's they? Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers Home Video is doing some crappy sequel. Are we in it? No. Are you in it? No. They asked me to be in it, but what about me? They just asked me to come do a cameo. So they do what supposed to. And I said I told them that there's no way I'm doing it. I wouldn't do it without you. And there's no mention me, nothing in the flick. Dude, you can't take it personally. It's not personal, dude. I love everyone in that movie. And everyone loved you. It's not them. Just put it into perspective. Would you want perspective is, man, I f***ed up one too many times, like, so to speak, on this strip, man. Burned too many bridges, and I'm not working because of it. You'd know this. When I found this out, and I knew that I was going to have to break this to you, it killed me, dude. Dude, it was really uncomfortable for me. The whole thing, the screening. It's all right, kid. It's fine, man. There's a future somewhere. It's just not looking really right this second, kid.
And he tells Haim, he's like, hey, I'm going to be in The Tribe. And Haim's like, yeah, we're going to do this. And he's like, well, actually, they only asked me. They really they don't want to.
Oh, wow.
So
down crying again. He almost breaks down crying in that scene in the show. Like, because was a star of the first one, and they didn't want him. And so after like watching it and seeing that mid-credit scene, it's just like it was like, you know what I mean? Like, holy shit, that poor dude.
This is so sad.
Oh, that's wow.
I would recommend YouTubing that scene if you can, because
good scene.
I'm not an asshole, but seeing Corey Feldman tell Corey Haim that they didn't want him in the tribe is it's right. More heartbreaking than Martyrs, Irreversible,
right?
But film.
I mean, that moment in the quote unquote reality show was rehearsed like 100 times over. Do you know what I mean? Like, you absolutely know that that's the case. I mean, but that just broke me.
It sounds like Feldman's doing a Frog Brothers impression when he tells him,
So
that's what they just did they end up cramming that scene in the end just because like they felt sad for Corey Haim?
No, I think
so.
Think they thought like I don't know. You know what? I don't know. I was going to theorize, but I'm like, I got nothing. I really
theorizing going on when it comes to Corey Feldman, Corey Haim, to be honest. And I say that as a huge fan of Corey Haim.
Yeah. One thing that I watched this movie with my daughter, which, whoops, that was a mistake. So we were just like, her and I were just talking before, we were going to record, and she was like, oh my God, that movie. And she goes, Dad, like the first Lost Boys was like these like super fun and vampires and it was scary, and then like this one is just like sex and nudity and they took all the fun out of it, which I'm like, yes. I'm like, that's pretty much the perfect encapsulation.
And though, you could tell Ada, your daughter, Ada, right?
Yes.
You can tell the third film is actually pretty fun. It's not good, but at least it brings back that fun. And Corey Feldman actually feels like a Frog Brother again. There's a couple things in the third one that's kind of funny, and we'll talk about that the next episode. But like, there's this uptight hipster in the comic shop, and he's just like, I don't read comic books, I read graphic novels.
So one because this whole movie basically is predicated on like the big brother needs to protect little sister from dude's storyline. And as far as I'm concerned, like I am so done with that story. Number one, because your main actress, I think it's Autumn Reeser playing Nicole, the sister. Absolutely like stunningly beautiful young woman. Apparently is supposed to be 17 years old, and she's
I don't like that.
Looks like 25. Like there was a line that's dropped in here, like you're how old are you? Your sister's all out all night, and she's like, well, she's almost 18. Like yes, that makes her 17, and I'm like, ooh, I don't feel so good about this right now. It was just like I just watched Uncle Buck.
Go ahead.
I just watched Uncle Buck again this morning and didn't realize that the teenage daughter is supposed to be 15 years old. I'm like, what? Like,
what happened in the 80s and 90s? Like, what was going on?
Yeah.
That. The whole plot device, it drives me nuts. And, hate, like love or hate the new Black Christmas. But that is one thing that I really loved about that movie is it kind of spoke to that, in my opinion. It spoke to that like women don't need men to be their heroes, like they're fucking capable. I think movies don't give them that credit, and like the whole idea of like, man, I got to protect my, it's fucking dumb, and it's played out.
Yeah,
and like,
it's
especially like, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's not like this was like 1992. This was 2008. Like this was filmed in 2008. Like this is just mind blowing to me that this was allowed to like exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish
like
I didn't.
There's no.
Sorry, I'm.
There's no agency for this character. And it almost like the character of Chris, who's the older brother, it's almost like he wants the sister for himself. There's this whiff of incest, because he has the whole shower scene with Monica Delane, who's still absolutely gorgeous. And, obviously when you're Monica Delane, within 10 seconds of being under the spell of Tad Hilgenbrink, who this looks like
Stifler from American Pie.
Who apparently he played Stifler's little brother in one of the direct-to-video sequels.
That makes a lot of sense.
Which I did not know until right before we started recording.
He just has permanent Stifler face.
He does, yes.
I mean,
he looks like if Stifler and Dennis from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia had a baby.
But you know what's weird too is I got that same sense that the brother and sister, if they didn't drop hey little sis, what you doing little sis, all the time, I would have thought that they were a couple. Right. And as she's fucking Angus, Shane, I don't know what his name was in this movie. As she's fucking him, Cry Little Sister is playing, and it just feels so incestual and wrong, and I hate it.
You definitely got the impression that at some point those two characters had the discussion, what if we keep it above the waist as brother and sister? You definitely felt like that.
There's two things that really just rub me wrong about the movie, other than everything. But the first one is just I know parties could get wild, I guess. I mean, that's what I hear. I never went to them growing up. I was always drinking in my own room, crying, listening to Joy Division. But I don't know if you guys have been to a lot of parties, but do people instantly get into showers when they meet people?
Yes, that's the thing that happens.
Okay, cool.
I mean, if you have Tad Hilgenbrink there, you have to.
Right?
It's a rule. I mean, it's basically a law. It's not even a rule. It's a law of nature. It's a law of nature that if you have the hotness of a Tad there, the shower stalls automatically open like the gates to heaven.
I have two questions about two different actors in this film, and one of them is Aunt Jillian. Was she somebody's mom? Why was she in this? I don't feel I don't mean was she somebody's mom in the movie? I mean in real life. Was she somebody's mom and they're we need to put this woman in the movie and have her walk in with the Goonies and a single donut to split between three people from Dunkin' Donuts. I don't understand where this woman got hired. Who did the casting in this movie? Because second of all, there's Angus Sutherland, who was only dumb luck he was born to the Sutherland Empire. And what does he do? Does he act in any other movies? I guess I just have a lot of questions about the acting choices.
So looking at your first question, Gabrielle Rose, she's actually got about 183 credits to her name. So she would be, a good character actress. She's in a ton of different things, a lot of TV, still working to this day. If you look at the past, few years, she's steadily working in a number of things, nothing that maybe we've seen her in, but hey, good for her when it comes to the fact that how many character actors just drop off the face of the earth and you never hear from them again. Angus Sutherland, obviously hired for the Sutherland name. Both he and
Ross Sutherland.
He and Tad both stopped working in 2000. It looks like Tad stopped working in 2010, Shane in 2011. I think they are managing a Benihana's somewhere.
I just looked Angus Sutherland up on Letterboxd, and it says actor in one film.
Okay.
Lost Boys the Tribe.
Okay.
Producer for one film called November Criminals.
This actually makes me feel better.
That's it. I mean, there's
I was hoping this didn't kickstart a career for him.
Oh, it didn't. It did.
Good.
Do you think that Kiefer acknowledges Angus, or does he pretend he's who? Definitely don't know who that is.
Tom Hanks, and Tom Hanks is not Colin Hanks, but his other son, Chet. Hanks that goes by Chet Hanks, like a gangster rapper.
Oh,
it's probably dynamic. It's probably that dynamic, you know.
What do you think Thanksgivings are like with like Donald Sutherland when like Kiefer and Angus are there?
A lot of mumbling.
You know, what do you think? Wait, what was that? A lot of what?
A lot of mumbling. I love Donald Sutherland, but holy shit, man.
So apparently, like, my wife has a story where, like, years ago, they were filming some movie in Cornwall that Kiefer Sutherland and Charlie Sheen were in. And my wife, like, got a call from one of her friends, like, I'm in bed with Charlie Sheen right now. And, like, he basically made his way up and down the coast. And Kiefer Sutherland spent every day, like, in a tea shop, like, drinking tea and being absolutely pleasant to, like, everybody he came along.
That's darling.
Yeah, he was, like, apparently the nicest, sweetest dude.
He's a legend and a treasure. Like, I watched Flatliners recently for an article I'm writing for something, and God, I love that movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. And Kiefer Sutherland has this like energy to him, and this electric just energy to him that I'm sorry, but Angus, of a fucking lighter. Like it's
much,
weird to watch.
Not much on-screen charisma there. I mean, when you see the Sutherland name, because Donald Sutherland has got such an incredible career that's lasted decades, and is fantastic. Kiefer Sutherland as David if you just had the performance from The Lost Boys, he is so electric in that movie, and then not to mention so many other things that he's done, and this is just like. If he didn't have his name as Angus Sutherland, there's nothing that would connect me to saying, yeah, he's related to them in any way. Because there's just nothing there. It's just so...
no. Ugh. Well, I will say plot twist, though. I think he's the most handsome of the three. I mean, the more charismatic is obviously Donald. Like, everyone wants to get with Donald, even women my age. But, like, Kiefer is, like, the guy you just, like, want to, like, go to a tea shop with. And Angus is the guy you just want to fuck to cry little sister. So
really?
Yeah, no, I mean a little, I guess.
No. I think that Rossif Sutherland needs some attention too, the other brother.
Wait, there's another?
Yes, with actually a decent career.
Oh.
I don't know. Know.
But fuck this movie. No, one thing I think that as far as music, this kind of shows what the tribe is. It's usually the movies that take a beloved song from the previous movie and try to get a youthful fucking hit band to cover it in the sequel that you're about to get a shit show. Like, I want to be in the board meeting of the tribe, not only to where they greenlit the movie so I could slap someone, but whoever said, we're going to get Cry Little Sister and have fucking Aiden cover it. Like,
Aiden's not a band name. Aiden is a
I'm sorry, I don't know
kid
what
with
Aiden
ADHD.
Is. What's Aiden?
That's my son's name. Come on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. I'm not talking trash about the
Wait,
name.
Your son sang this song? No, what's going on with it? So Aiden is it a band though?
It was a band. They were basically the equivalent of every kid that went to Hot Topic once and walked out with like the Crow makeup on their face. Literally, this band looked like that for the first couple albums. They are the bane of my existence, and they're the ones that cover Cry Little Sister for this movie. So walking into it already, I was just like, I heard that song on the credits, and I think it's in the movie too. I have PTSD even from revisiting this movie, so I'm trying to block it out.
It's during the big love-making scene, which...
Oh, man. And this is some fucking fun context. The fucking singer of this band, once they broke up, had a popular in the whole sceney thing, because I have teenage kids. They talk about this bullshit. The singer changed his name to William Control. And he sang these songs, BDSM, and he actually has this like site, I guess, where women could sign up to be his slaves, and like it's fucking weird shit.
Wow.
I mean, I'm gonna look up that site, but
I'm kind of like I'm kind of regretting that I named my son Aiden.
No. I mean, come on.
I mean, because everyone's going to think it's after this guy now. So,
well, yeah, sure.
I'm looking at his website right now, and like it's
right.
You know, I guess his band is on the cover. Imagine if like there was a chemical spill of like Drakkar Noir. Oh, Jesus.
Drakkar Noir. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
I can say it because it's so sexy.
I just ruined my own joke, but imagine a spill of that. And that's what these four dudes would be right here. Like,
I mean, my God. Just look at the soundtrack, guys. You have Aiden.
Guys, you guys are just describing every guy I dated in 1999 through 2002. So
you have Aiden. You have a song by G Love and Special Sauce. You have.
Wait, I'm sorry. You're saying things I don't know.
I'm just looking at the soundtrack here. You do have a song from, Dave Gahan from Depeche Mode. I could get on board with that. But then there is some Seether that follows that. Who fucking greenlit this movie?
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't mind greenlighting the movie. I mean, it makes sense, and it was successful. I mean, we'll talk about that, I guess, at the end. Like, that it actually did for what they wanted. It exceeded what they thought it would do in terms of, direct to video for the market. So, but there's again, just no accounting for taste or whatnot. But it was successful.
It's been a name. Everyone bought it because of the Lost Boys. We waited how long? Right. Like over a decade for a sequel. I mean, like who didn't buy The Tribe when it came out?
Yeah. I mean, you could have called it like The Lost Boys, like, I don't know, the Care Bears. And if you had like an animated Care Bear short in there, people may have bought it because we wanted more Lost Boys, but it was just, yeah. Oh, you first, Veronica. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was trying to read a little about this film, and there was very little literature about it. But what I did see, or I heard, can't remember my source now. I'm a very bad librarian, you guys. But what I did retain is that the children, the 17-year-old girl and her fuck buddy brother, were the children of Michael. Is this correct?
No, not that I know.
Okay, because they have the same last name, and people referenced a Lost Boys comic book, and that there's backstory in the comic book that actually helps make this movie make a little bit more sense.
I can understand that, but at the same time, there are actual in The Thirst, there are actually like many references to the first film and what happened to those characters.
Okay.
Yeah, and they kind of disregard. In fact, if I remember correctly, because it's been a while, I think the Tribe doesn't exist in The Thirst.
Oh, good, because it doesn't exist in my world either.
Right. But I mean, I think it's maybe Damage Control if they did a comic that connected those, because I mean, this movie was surfing werewolves before it became the Lost Boys. I don't even think anybody knew where it was going.
Yeah, it literally just took the script with the surfing werewolves and added Corey Feldman's Frog Brother character, changed the bad guys to vampires, and that was it. I mean, that was really the script. Warner Brothers had originally passed on the script. It was written by Hans Rodionoff. They originally passed on it, and then because it was too similar to the original Lost Boys in terms of its plot points, and then they decided to buy it from him and change it to vampires at that point.
You know what? Actually, I think you might be right now that I think of it, because I remember. See, I'm trying to go back to the suppressed memory of the Tribe. I remember for a while, I think Jason Patric was in talks to return for this movie. So if he did, he probably would have played the dad to them instead of having the aunt character. That does make sense.
Great. This pieces it all together for me, and now it's just climbing up in the ranks.
Right. No, it's like better than the Lost Boys for you.
I think so.
So I'm going to say on one positive thing, it's like I think the film sniffs around one good idea and they don't unfortunately follow through with it, where Tad or Chris goes undercover, but you think that he's actually going to, he drinks the blood, he starts getting vampire powers, and you think he's going to actually say, like, why not live forever, like, go ahead. Like, vampires can't get pregnant, so I could then boink my sister, win-win, live forever, sister sex. And then it, like, immediately is like, no, he's an undercover half vampire that is trying to kill them, which is too bad. So I think that would be an interesting idea.
I was just saying that sounds like the plot, like it would be like a bad Christian Slater movie in the 90s. It would be like a straight-to-video sequel to Cuffs.
So do we have anything else? I know it's like a little bit I have one other thing I want to discuss tangentially related to this movie, but do we have anything else on the Tribe that I'm missing here? Because there's just not a lot of meat on this bone.
Movie-wise, no. I do think it's interesting that it was so successful.
Sure.
Yeah. Other than that, nope.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't want to talk about this anymore.
Okay. So here's my question for you guys. I was thinking about this while trying to process this movie. What is it about something like The Tribe, like a direct-to-video, and movies like it? Because, like, the 90s, when with the rise of DVD and the cheapness of digital video, you just saw so many direct-to-video kind of schlocky horror movies, even more than you would have seen, in the 80s and 90s. What is it about, like, what separates, say, like a movie I would say is a bad movie, like The Tribe, versus a movie that I don't like? Like Jason Goes to Manhattan is kind of a chore to get through for the show, but if it comes on TV or if someone throws it on, like, I'm going to get into it and kind of enjoy that movie. Even a Halloween Resurrection, for as much as we don't love that movie, like, watching that with a group of friends would be, I think, still pretty fun, where I can't imagine a scenario where any of us would ever throw this on with a group of other people to, like, watch, even for its bad charm.
Does anyone want to go, or I can?
No, go.
I was just going to say that, like, I think that even the films that I don't care for in kind of franchises that I dig, like, I don't like Halloween Resurrection. Obviously, as our listeners and Adam Marcus knows, I'm not a fan of Jason Goes to Hell. With that being said, I can see that they were at least trying to make a decent movie and trying to do an interesting take within the characters that we all loved. It didn't, like, none of them hit their mark with me, but they at least tried. Like, I appreciate that they exist, even if I don't like them. I mean, even Book of Shadows, like, I don't like that movie, but it's kind of fucking cool that it exists because, they were trying to do something different. The Tribe, like I said earlier, I just feel like there's no respect towards the first movie with this one. It was 100% a cash thing. It was a money thing. Whereas Jason Goes to Hell, I don't think it was a money thing, because if it was a money thing, he wouldn't have let them go off and do their own thing.
I don't know. I mean, like, I don't, no one is going into Jason Takes Manhattan going like, look, man, this is going to be, our Kurosawa. You know what I mean? This is going to be our The Fortress. It's all about making money at the end of the day.
Every movie is about making money, really. But what I mean is, like, I think that there was some reverence towards the character. Sure. Because by Jason Takes Manhattan, plot-wise, there was nothing. But that movie is a Jason movie. You know what I mean? By then they knew what their audience wanted to see. There isn't a single action or anything in The Tribe of what the audience wanted to see. Even Corey Feldman's performance, or even the character, how it's written, is nothing like the character in the first film, to where, like, you could even change his name, you wouldn't even know that it would be a Frog Brother. Like, it's so, you know what I mean? Like, it like, I could understand Halloween 6 existing. Like, it's fucking weird, and I'm not a fan of it, but you know what I mean? Like, they at least try to do something with the characters.
Yeah, it doesn't feel disrespectful like The Tribe feels.
Exactly. Exactly.
I don't know if The Tribe feels so much disrespectful as just lazy. And maybe that's disrespectful in and of itself, but it just feels like,
I think it's disrespectful because, I mean, even the last episode, we talked about like the really interesting themes and looks on on really actually kind of complex and, great things in the first film. I think it is disrespectful to make a movie that is kind of like the antithesis to that.
And yes, and it's not even a product of its time like The Lost Boys was. Like 2008 was a big year for our country and for the politics behind what The Lost Boys originally did. 2008 was a big turning point for a lot of things, and it just didn't even give a shit. It was just all about throwing in that garlic, holy water, raw egg drink and shoving it down our throats.
Which is funny because you have that raw egg drink and you have basically Feldman doing his best alone, and what's a Rocky drink but raw egg. I will say it is a welcome break to see Feldman try to do Stallone hardcore and put fucking his Michael Jackson impression down for a minute. Because that's like I'm kind of over it. So I just don't know how much more there is and I know it's a little bit short for us this week. I just don't know how much there is to really talk about this one overall. I mean, maybe we're wrong. Maybe, and again, if there's someone out there that is like, this is my favorite movie of all time, I want to hear from that person.
What's interesting to me is when you talk about the Lost Girls in the What Could Have Been, what I think about is that one segment from Trick or Treat, the vampire Anna Paquin segment, that I think that I feel like I would have 1,000% loved to have seen that. And I think that would have been so much, even done poorly, would have been so much better than what this brought to my life, which was...
Did you guys hear about when they announced that they were trying to make a Lost Boys TV series recently, and that they were changing the characters of the Frog Brothers to female characters, and like the internet, like Brodom kind of like created such a huge thing. Like it was such a, it was almost like someone like shit. It was like if someone shit in their salad. Like they were so protective over this movie, and it reminded me of like, I'm not dissing Fight Club. I think it's a fun movie, but it's kind of like you guys don't realize that like Fight Club was making fun of you guys, And I feel like that's Lost Boys was about a lot of these things that a lot of these bro dudes, you know what I mean? Like it's not a straight movie. Like it could be enjoyed as so, but it's very much a look at those things, and I feel like a lot of them maybe like didn't realize that, and they're holding the Lost Boys precious for reasons that they don't even know. It's odd to me.
Yeah, I think a lot of these, I don't know, but a lot of these boys were young when they saw this movie, and they just saw themselves in these different characters. And I don't know if they've even revisited it as adults and looked at it from a different angle. They're just kind of like, this was precious to me at this time. Just like, for me, I never really had that connection with The Lost Boys or The Goonies. I loved The Goonies, but at the same time, that wasn't a movie for me. I didn't see myself there. I was more into, a Now and Then movie, right? But it was fine. But I think that once you start reimagining a movie, just like, obviously with Ghostbusters, right? Like you're going to get those bros that come out of the woodwork and say, what the fuck? Or, if there's that Poe Finn storyline that they tried, that J.J. Abrams tried for this final Star Wars, and they just said, no, thank you. Audiences are not going to like this. And they just kind of said no. So I think that turning the Frog Brothers into the Frog Sisters, that would have a very negative reaction from our friends over on Reddit or whatever.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's maybe time to let this one go at this point. Maybe it's time to develop a new property or a new story and maybe let this one go, because I think the meat is kind of off the bone at this point.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Brian, you have been awfully quiet ever since I associated the name of Aiden with ADHD.
No, that's not
You've been
what
like,
I meant.
fuck you, Mike.
No, I've been just sitting here sort of chuckling because it's just this is I just didn't really have anything to say about this movie. I was walking into this going, oh my gosh, I have no idea what to say.
Just very glad that either Poltergeist or Final Destination is going to be the next thing we do. We got to wash the taste out of our mouth a little bit. All right. So any last words, my friends?
Don't watch The Tribe. No, you know what? Watch Lost Boys: The Tribe. Enjoy it if that's your bag. Let us know if you like it, because I would like to meet that one person that enjoyed this movie.
Can you imagine if this was the last movie you ever watched? Like you watched this and then had a stroke or something.
Actually,
like that,
when I watched this movie, it was almost the last movie I ever watched because I didn't know if I wanted to go on. There we are. Lost Boys, guys.
All right.
All right. Well, listeners, thanks so much for putting up with us today, especially me. We will be back next week with the final installment in our Lost Boys coverage, but we've been assured that it's a lot more pleasurable to get through. Still might not be, a world beater of a film, but at least it's fun. I get everybody. You know what? I don't even know how to end this episode. I feel beaten down by this movie at this point.
Just hang us on a pair of antlers and let us go.
Well, if you need a good laugh, go check out my article at Dread Central.
Yes. I cannot push that one enough. I love that article. Good job, man.
I appreciate it. I was when they said that's the one they wanted me to do, I was like, oh God, I'm scared to death. But let's give it a try, and I thought it turned out pretty well. It was fun to do that one.
All right, everyone. We'll be back next week. Thanks for tuning in. Follow us over at Twitter at Pod and Pendulum, and we'll be back.